Hello everybody, today I'm watching History's Worst Non-Water Floods by Salmonella Academy. Now the only non-water floods I could imagine would be a mudslide. Well, without wasting any more time, let's see what history's worst non-water floods actually are.
Hey kids, if you've been on Earth for any amount of time, you should know that this place is pretty wet and wild. With water just falling from the sky whenever it feels like it, it's no surprise that floods are among nature's most common means of wrecking humanity's hard work.
75% of the Earth's surface is covered by water.
However, not every flood has been made out of plain old H2O. Today, we're going to talk about some of the few non-water liquid disasters that mankind has endured. January 15th, 1919 was a particularly warm day for Boston, at around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, well above the freezing temperatures of the past week. Men wore their hats a little
5 degrees Celsius?
Children huddled about the fire a little less closely, and a metal tank containing 2.3 million gallons of molasses decided to collapse. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sam, I've never even held a molasses before.
Yeah, what even is molasses?
2.3 million gallons of it in the world. What was that much molasses doing in one place? Well, young grasshopper, as with...
I need to actually look this up because I don't even know what molasses is. Oh, it's a sweetener.
Well, young grasshopper, as with most things, the answer is alcohol. As the cylinder came tumbling down, it unleashed a delicious brown tsunami that was 25 feet high at its peak. Also, forget everything you know about idioms, because the waves were reported to have moved as fast as 35 miles per hour. That means you're slower than molasses. Nerd. Add that to the fact that molasses is way more dense than water, and you've got a recipe for some major destruction. Eyewitness accounts of the event describe houses being swept off their foundation and subsequently demolished. The level of damage was comparable to a tornado sweeping through, its path of devastation stretching a half-mile long. Here's a picture of, something.
Half a mile, that's about 800 meters. Almost a whole kilometer. And it was moving at what, he said 33 miles per hour? That is... I'd say that's about like, what, 52 kilometers per hour?
I can't tell what it was supposed to be. All I know is that molasses clearly does not play. That's not all, though. A truck was picked up and chucked into the harbor, a train car got knocked off its tracks, and a bunch of dogs and horses just straight up drowned. Oh, and some people, too.
Yeah.
150 were injured and 21 were killed in the disaster.
Of course people would drown.
The sweet release of death.
If it was like 8 meters tall, was able to cause so much destruction... was able to cause so much destruction for almost a whole kilometer, of course a shit ton of people would die. Especially if it was unexpected and just randomly happened out of the blue, out of nowhere.
So high were that A, once you're stuck in something that thick and sticky, you're kind of fucked unless 3 guys with a rope happen to show up. And B, the affected area was so large that 3 guys with a rope would have no way to get to you without getting trapped themselves. As a result, rescuers had to wait several days before the molasses either sufficiently drained out of an area or hardened up enough in the sun and the cold so that
the person just died
without sinking in. After the incident, cleanup was carried out primarily by blasting the streets with salt water, which took many weeks and stained the waters of the Boston Harbor brown for months. Naturally, all the rescue workers and cleanup crew ended up getting molasses all over them, which led to them getting the stuff all over payphones, subway cars, door handles, you name it. It's said that for decades afterwards, residents could still catch a whiff of molasses outside during the summer months, and Boston remains one of Forbes' top 10.
There's no way you could actually smell it after decades. There's no way. It should definitely disappear after such a long time.
10 stickiest places to this day. Our next tale took place on the evening, one of Forbes' top 10 stickiest places to this day.
There is no way that's a list.
Took place on the evening of June 18th, 1875.
And if it is, then why?
A fire had been raging across several blocks of the city for many hours prior, and like many of us do after a long hard day of wreaking havoc, the fire decided to mosey on over to the malt house for a much needed drink. Around 5,000 barrels of whiskey and other social lubricants subsequently burst from the heat, sending a cascade of what is essentially liquid fuel careening out into the street, carrying the inferno on its back.
Alcohol burns.
Now, normally you think people would just run away from the impending
so a flaming tsunami,
being
basically.
That this is Ireland, the crowds of people had a better idea. They said, hey, fellow upstanding citizens, why don't we band together and, help with the cleanup efforts? So they decided to dispose of the river of beverage running through their neighborhood neighborhood by hiding it safely away in their stomachs. Some people drank directly from the
There's
street,
no way
while
you
the
could-
classier among them were seen taking off their nasty sweat-filled boots, filling them up and just gulping away. Keep in mind, while today's version is flavored primarily with cinnamon, this Fireball whiskey contained a special blend of spices including ash, street filth, tiny shards of glass and wood, and whatever else you could imagine. But hey, free drinks are free drinks. In the end, 13 people perished as a result of this incident. Was it from the fire? Nope. Smoke inhalation?
It was because they drank it.
Still no. Unfortunately, though they did boot, and they did rally, they forgot to do both at once. As a result, all 13 deaths were actually from alcohol poisoning caused by chugging too much runaway liquor. So let this be a lesson, kids. Don't drink.
It's not because there was a bunch of unhealthy stuff inside that. It's just because they drank too much alcohol. Imagine dying from drinking too much alcohol. That's pathetic.
Dispensary instead. Moving along, here's another potation inundation, this time on the other aisle. 1814 London was a rapidly growing metropolis, and like all metropolises, it had its fair share of densely populated slums, one of which was St. Giles' Rookery. And what better place is there to build a brewery than amongst the impoverished and thirsty? Unfortunately, said brewery apparently got cocky and decided to skimp out on their iron rings that hold up the big beer things budget.
Another alcohol flood?
Completely collapsing and knocking over all the others with it. In total, around 323,000 imperial gallons, or 1.5 million liters of beer were unleashed that day. The flood of ale pushed over the wall of the brewery with the same ease.
How much money is that? Jesus Christ.
That Jared Kushner pushes old ladies down escalators, gushing out into the streets and totally demolishing multiple homes situated nearby. Good morning, America. I'm reporter Pat Lauer. No relation, don't worry. We're here at the scene of the world's biggest party foul. Ma'am, how does this whole thing make you feel? Ha, don't worry. This isn't the first time alcohol has torn my household apart.
Oh no!
My husband has struck me on multiple occasions. At least 8 people are known to
Well,
have
it's
died
210 years ago. No one's gonna care.
From drowning or from having their house dropped on them. In spite of this,
it happened in 1814. Pretty sure no one in that time period would care if her husband struck her.
Nobody was held responsible for the disaster.
You know, the good old days.
That the collapse was an act of God. I wish people were that lenient with act of God clauses today, like, alright, here's your coffee, ma'am. Whoops. Jesus Christ, it burns! Yes. That was Jesus Christ who did that. You motherfucker, my legs are fusing together.
All part of God's plan.
Ways. Maybe you were supposed to be a mermaid, who knows? So, I hope the knowledge of these events will serve to empower you in your life going forward. If you find one of your friends trapped in molasses, now you'll say, don't worry, I'll save you. In a couple days. If your street is ever flooded
if you're still alive at that point.
Oh boy, time to start chugging. In moderation, of course. But why stop there when you can learn a lifetime of practical wisdom with Skillshare.com? Skillshare is an online learning community.
I imagined most of these non-water floods would be things like mud. I didn't think it would be alcohol or molasses. Although then again, I guess any flood that's caused by a whole bunch of liquid would be incredibly dangerous, no matter what it is. Yeah, I can't imagine something like this happening today. There's far too many safety precautions for something like this to take place. Although then again, human error is a thing, and unfortunately humans are not perfect, so this could technically still happen. One single mistake would be enough. Well, anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Leave a like, subscribe, comment. A link to my Discord server is down in the description below, so you can check that out if you want, and I will see you in the next video.